All right, so we're going to start right now. The show is called Sex Life. It's on Netflix, season 1, episode 1. The characters, there's 3 characters, and maybe even 4. First character is Billy. She's the wife. Second character is Cooper, the husband. Third character is the bad boy, former boyfriend, Brad. It starts out with this woman in a club. She's dancing very, very sensually. Very sensually. Lights are dark. I wish I could show pictures right now. Strobe lights, dancing. And a lot of this is her narration. She says, "Those were the days I was free." Those were the first words. Those were the days I was free. Now, this is coming from the perspective of a married woman. Okay? So it starts with her and this bad boy on the dance floor. She's just grooving and grinding, and he comes along. And then he just basically takes her and leads her by the hand into this booth, this little side room in the club. They start making out. They start taking off jackets and this kind of stuff. He goes right down to her underwear, I'm talking in the first 5 minutes, and we're talking these people are in their, I'm guessing they're in their late 20s to 30, 30 years old, because they have PhDs. So he instantly grabs her underwear with his teeth, pulls her underwear down, starts performing oral sex on her right there. Okay. Then he works his way up, removes her top clothing, and starts sucking on her breasts. Okay? She's very surprised. You could almost see her saying, "Don't." He starts doing that. He starts sucking on her breasts in this club, in a little private little booth, and says, and he's just grinning as he's doing it. She looks down and she says, "You're killing me." The scene fades into a woman in bed with a baby, an infant. The same woman now, in a nightgown, in a beautiful bedroom, in a beautiful bed. And there's a baby by her side. The camera goes down. The baby is nursing, sucking on her breast. She says to the baby, "You're killing me." That right there, I thought, was an interesting juxtaposition. She took the bad boy, who instantly started doing oral sex on her, then started sucking on her breasts, and then it fades to a baby sucking on her breasts. And then she says, "You're killing me," to the baby. Pretty interesting. So now you fast forward. She's married with a couple children. She's led outside by her 5-year-old. Mommy, come! You got to come see what I have." So she gets up, puts on a house coat kind of thing, has her little infant, and goes out into the backyard, this palatial, beautiful home. Okay. And the 5-year-old boy has a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly in a jar. Now, there's all kinds of symbolism and imagery in this. She says, "You have to loosen the top of the jar or it will die." Right there. She was telling, it was a tell, she was telegraphing, "I feel jarred in. If you don't take the top off, I'm going to die." At that moment, the husband, Cooper, handsome, well-built, comes out of the house. He stands up. He says, "There's my beautiful girl." And there's, the infant little girl laying on a blanket, in this grassy backyard. "There's my beautiful girl." He goes out. He walks right past Billy, grabs the little infant daughter, holds the daughter. Billy thought that when he said, "There's my beautiful girl," she thought Cooper, the husband, was talking about her. So you can see as he passes her, to go pick up the baby. She's like, oh, interesting. Keep this in mind. She's probably about 30. She has a PhD from Columbia. There's my beautiful girl. The camera focuses on her face because she thought he was talking about her. You can see the disappointment in her face. She wants to be told that she's beautiful. There's my beautiful girl. The voiceover, which is her voiceover, says, now she's watching him play with the kids in the backyard, running with the bicycle, holding the little baby. She says, my gorgeous husband, he's so gorgeous, inside and out. I never caught him looking at another woman. Hell, I've never even caught him in a lie. So what's the problem, right? She asks that question. This is all in the first 10, 15 minutes. So the husband, Cooper, he is a beautiful man, well-groomed, nice haircut. I'm guessing he is early to mid-30s. She tells him that she misses him as they're getting themselves together in the bathroom. He's finishing shaving. He's putting on a tie, combing his hair, looking all handsome. And she says, I miss you, as he's heading to work. How interesting. Here's a man working for an investment company, working his ass off, putting her in a palatial home, and Billy is unhappy. Wah, wah, wah. Okay? When you look at the home, you're like, God, this is a beautiful house. But I miss you. Honey, he can't stay home and fuck you because he has to go to work. Okay? You guys created 2 children. You wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I get it. You have your PhD. You had your fun. Your husband created this beautiful life for you. He carried you through the threshold. In her mind, she says this. In her mind, you hear her saying this, the narration. I was in 73% of all Kama Sutra positions, as we all should be. And her mind goes off back to this reminiscing. So there's all these scenes. She goes, there was the muscular guy, the rich guy, the poor guy, the tattooed guy. And every time she says that, you see her getting slammed by the muscular guy. She's fucking the poor guy on his couch in a little apartment. The tattooed guy, she's like all tied up while he's just banging the shit out of her. And she's saying that in her head. And then in her head, she says, why marry someone so straight-laced? Honestly, because of them. So she's blaming her straight-laced husband on her thinking about these past men, the poor guy, the rich guy, the tattooed guy, the, like whatever guy. All right. Her exact words are, my nerves were shot by the time I met Cooper. Okay, so she's been run through 100 times or more. Unable to pair bond. Let's get real. Women lose their ability to pair bond after, about 6 men? After 6 penises have been in their vagina and in their mouth, all over them. They've been sprayed. A single woman's bedroom looks like a crime scene 9 times out of 10. She's absorbed and ingested more semen than she ever thought she would have. But she says this, my nerves were shot by the time I met Cooper. Here's a guy, straight, clean cut, bought a big, beautiful house for her. He pretty much rescued her from her self-destruction by her own words. The narration says, it's like he had been waiting for me, for us. He makes her dinner at the new house that he bought for her. She's watching him make dinner. you know, Black Lives Matter Atlanta, go fuck yourself. It's like this is what's happening. She says, as she's watching him cook dinner, she says, how could you not fall in love with this guy? How could you not fall in love with him? He was the most handsome and humble guy in the room. That's what she says. He provided a dream life for me. And then you get these like dreamy statements. And then she says, this is in the narration of like what she's thinking. And I also want him to fuck my brains out. Is that too much to ask? She's very, 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 very struggling right now. So she doesn't have the ability to say it out loud. What she says is what she says in her head. And I also want him to fuck my brains out. Is that too much to ask? Okay. Cooper has provided this magnificent house in Connecticut. I believe he works in New York City. We're not talking about anything but what I'm talking about. Everything else gets blocked. So don't provoke idiots, folks. Whatever you do. That's all. Is that too much to ask? So she comes in the room, kisses him. He's laying on the bed, watching football. Okay. And she comes in, they're kissing, and, you know, she takes her top off, and she's naked in half this show, basically. And she gets on him. And the view ends up becoming from his perspective. So you see her breasts in front of him as she's on him, but you also see him going like this, watching the football game while she's on him. She has her eyes closed and she's riding him. She's got her back to the TV. When she opens her eyes, she sees that he's watching the football game. Interesting. He ends up losing his erection, and she's like, oh, crap, like that. She falls to his side. They're laying in bed naked. And then he goes to stimulate her sexually with his hand. And she's closing her eyes. And then finally she says, oh, screw it. Just get the vibrator. He goes and gets the vibrator, puts the vibrator on her. Batteries run out. So, and then all of a sudden the baby down the hall starts crying. So you can see how they're setting this up. Wild girl marries successful man. Life isn't as exciting as she thought it would be as a mom, as a wife, and her mind goes back to, oh, I remember when I was having sex and enjoying myself. Now I'm a mom. So the setup is that the new princess life is not nearly as exciting as the life prior, when she was getting ragdolled by all of the different guys in the clubs. So much of this show is her narrating it. she's not talking it as much as she's saying it in her head, but you're hearing this narration. She says, I feel like a watered down wife mom version of me, and I'm not sure this is who I'm supposed to be. Now, keep in mind, she's got a 5-year-old son and an infant daughter. So we're probably talking 6 to 7 years into the marriage. She was living in an apartment in New York City. He ends up sweeping her off her feet and building a home for her and him in Connecticut, which a lot of people who work in Manhattan, take the train into work from Connecticut. She's telling her girlfriend, who she was wild with. Did you ever date a woman who had like wild friends? And you could always tell when the girl was with the wild friends because they acted a little wilder. They were talking about stuff that the woman would never talk about. The woman would be talking about stuff that she'd never be talking about with you. I used to have girlfriends that would go out with certain women and to like a coffee meeting, or a craft night at another woman's house. That was cool. But when the woman went out with the girlfriends for a girls' night out kind of thing, she always came back with a different attitude. And you could always tell that the girlfriends were having the effect on the girl. So she's telling her girlfriend this, I feel like a watered down wife mom version of myself, and I'm not sure this is who I'm supposed to be. The girlfriend, who is still a wild club chick, says to her, "Ooh, don't give up on a good thing, man. Don't do that." In other words, like, you got this guy that kind of rescued you, gave you this life. Isn't that what we all want? That's what we all used to talk about. Don't give up on this good thing. Cooper's a good guy. Cooper's a good guy. But Billy had all her fun with the bad guys. And guess who the bad guy's name is? It's Brad. Of friggin' course, right? So Billy says to her friend, don't give up on a good thing. She says, I need to feel that. I need to feel that again. It was such a high. It was such a high. Interesting, right? She drinks some vodka and she types in her journal, she pours vodka into a coffee cup. And she says, love is a drug. The dopamine, the adrenaline, the oxytocin. But I can get that feeling again every time I close my eyes. I feel it. And it's a whole other me. The duality of the woman who had the wild life and then settled down. All she has to do, if she gets bored or the husband's falling asleep or watching football, she closes her eyes. She goes, I can have that all again if I close my eyes. If I close my eyes, I can have that all again. She's describing her conversation with Brad, the bad boy, who was like a friend of the band or a roadie for the band or some kind of thing like that. She says, the intensity of our conversations was intoxicating. The truth is, I miss him so damn much. She's writing this in her journal. The next scene goes to the kitchen where she's just doing something in the kitchen. And Cooper, the husband, comes in and he just happens to look at her laptop and he sees this stuff written down. The intensity of our conversations was intoxicating. The truth is, I miss him so damn much. The husband looks at that, closes the laptop, says, "What is this? What is this?" He finds out what she's journaling. He says to her, "Who are you? Who the hell are you?" Remember what I said. Crazy can take a long time to come out. Okay, especially if it's a woman who's been around a little bit. All right, which is one of the reasons why many women are unmarriageable. And it seemed like Cooper, the husband, literally rescued her. He was Captain Save-A-Ho. He was a guy that found a wild woman that would never go for him in his younger days, but now that he was a successful financial executive, big house, Range Rover cars, gave her 2 kids. So he grabs her, pulls her hair, bends her over the island in the kitchen. He establishes dominance with her, grabs her hair, pulls her panties down, and says, "You're all mine." At that moment, he goes and gives her what I believe was anal sex at that point, because the entry was not this kind of entry on her face. It was literally, "I will show you, bitch." As he's pulling her hair, he got sexually rough with her, and then he inserts himself in her anus at that point. Boom, 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 while grabbing her hair, pulling her hair, getting very violent, getting very, I shouldn't say violent, getting very energetic with her, but not doing what the bad boys didn't do to her either. Let's get real about that. The next morning, they bump into each other in the bathroom. No words. You see him at the mirror, putting on his tie, combing his hair. She's in her nightgown. The babies are crying. He says, "I've got to go to work," and he leaves. You see her getting ready, throwing on some kind of plain clothes, not doing her hair or makeup, anything like that. Next thing you know, you see her at the train station in Connecticut on her way to New York City to find the man that made her an alpha widow. So she goes to her wild girlfriend's house that she's known for years. They were schoolmates together at Columbia as they both worked on their PhDs. And then she visits her friend, a black woman, and is talking to her. "We need to talk. We need to talk." And they're having a talk. And then who comes out of the bedroom? Brad, the bad boy. She looks at him. She looks at the black girl. And the episode ends. All right. Let's talk about this. I'm going to post the link. And stay focused tonight on the topic. Any nonsense, any bullshit that's not about the topic gets blocked. That's my first and last warning to every single human being here tonight. Keep your political bullshit to yourself. This is not a political channel. So, I post the link. If you want to join the discussion, and let's talk about this. And if this is interesting enough of a conversation, we will do episode 2. If I feel that this is a conversation that is fruitful and that can teach us about life, or is this just a vision of perverted Hollywood? Or, as I said, is this an accurate version? Is this an accurate version of what life is? And let me put the banner up real quick. All right. Gentlemen, did I describe the scenario in detail enough for you to understand what's happening here?
Yep.
Okay. Give me your feedback on that.
I'd say that's pretty accurate. I don't want to come on here and, be the angry, MGTOW red pill guy. Well, yeah, you see, this proves the MGTOW red pill ideology, but it does have some good stuff in there. Definitely does.
Mm-hmm. John Hoover from Austin, Texas. What are your thoughts on that scenario?
Plays out all too common. And I've personally seen it in my brother's life. And I think it's an accurate portrayal of many a modern couple's life, especially in the upper middle class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a lot of people are reviewing shows on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more of like a titillating kind of review. And I want this to be a truly rational
Mm-hmm.
review of this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
George, what I see is sort of a tragedy, if you will, at this stage in that first episode. It's setting the groundwork. And you have the college girl in her graduate, she's in her master's doing her doctorate. I don't know if he meets her postdoctorate or whatever. She might still be in school. She's having all this wild affairs. I take it it's happening in New York City.
Yeah.
So you have Sodom and Gomorrah, New York City. And she, like you say, she has this revelation. She wakes up, she's in her 30s. The alarm clock, the biological alarm clock, starting to go off. And she starts thinking that she needs to find something more stable in her Cooper. Would you say
Cooper
that's pretty fair?
provides that. Yeah, that's a good one. Her exact words were, "How could you not love this man? It's like he's been waiting for me. He makes me dinner every night. He's the most handsome and humble guy in the room. He provides a dream life for me. But I also want him to fuck my brains out. Is that too much to ask?" She says it exactly like that.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's the conflict between the adrenaline rush of the party girl and how sex, you have to keep going for that further thrill. You progress through the positions, you progress to bondage, you progress to different perversions, seeking that extra thrill because you're not getting it, because there's no emotional, you're having sex. It's fucking opposed to lovemaking.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I hate to use that language,
but well, I think Chris Rock said it pretty well. He said, "I haven't had sex ever since I haven't effed since I got married, but I've had sex."
Exactly. I mean, that says it perfect.
Mhm.
Timmy C,
Right.
click the link and come on live with us. Timmy Z from Arizona. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. She meets this bad boy. He's like in a leather jacket. He has no shirt on, kind of thing. He's got like a gold dog tag chain. He's got the kind of like the 3-day beard going on. And within 10 minutes, he's having oral sex on her. Within 10 minutes.
Ugh, yuck.
And I thought the juxtaposition, first of all, that's gross. If you think about it, that's disgusting. Nothing wrong with oral sex, but meeting somebody and doing that right away to a woman, come on. But
Mhm.
then he moves up to her breasts and he's sucking on her breasts in the club. This is not in a private area, in the club. And what's happening is, and then it fades out to her dream life. And there's a close-up of a baby sucking on her breast. And she says to the baby, "You're killing me." The same words used on Brad and used on the infant that's nursing.
But
Yeah,
George, could that be a sensation? To me, mine would be totally different sensations for her. And I think it's more of a shock. Like, she looks down at Brad, killing me. Oh my God, what are you doing? And then she looks down at the baby going, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
What's going
We have
What
a
do you
new
think?
fella joining us. What are your thoughts? What is your name and where are you from?
My name's Christopher, and I'm from Ontario, Canada.
Commie-Canada?
Ontario, Canada?
Yeah, it's Commie-Canada.
Canada. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, it took me a second, but no, I know what you're saying.
Mhm.
What,
know,
what are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, it was really disturbing. But I thought it was kind of interesting that even, what appears to me is the degenerate propaganda, right? I can see the sort of cliches hold true, like they say you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, or
Right.
you can Captain Save a Hoe, or whatever, right? Or that what matters is a woman's future, and what matters is a woman's past and a man's future. So a lot of that really stands out. But also, they're really trying to paint the freedom as just being bent over by Tom, Dick, and Harry every other day or whatever, and
Yeah.
and then even the scene where she's kind of being assaulted, that freedom, and then to serve your family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, it all seems really backwards, right? But that's what the culture wants us to get into.
Mhm.
It was interesting that it was a woman that suggested this for me, and she's probably going to watch this tonight or tomorrow. A woman who is a couple years older than me. I thought it was very interesting. But when I went to Netflix, it also says popular on Netflix right now. You know that line of thumbnails of the movies that most people are watching and shows and whatever. This is popular on Netflix right now. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
I have not caught up on the conversation. So
Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
you're the carnivore guy, yeah? How's your progress going?
it's going well. I'm day 53 now
Nice.
and doing well. I actually was able to get on an airplane, go to San Antonio, go to Austin, get on a plane back to Glendale, and yeah, But what's this with the Netflix that we're talking about?
Well, it's a show. It's a very popular show right now, and I'm discussing it from a rational point of view, not as a titillating point of view, and not as a perspective that's that I'm promoting. And this is an R to X rated broadcast tonight.
Nice. Put the kids to bed, eh, George?
Yeah, the kids are in bed. So it's kind of like no holds barred. Now, does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? What are your thoughts?
I would say yes and, as opposed to either or.
Okay. They feed each other, so to speak.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Because I mean,
there is a feedback loop.
Got it. I know it's not me because I know mine's muted, but however, I do have to ask this question, and I suppose it's along the same vein as chicken or the egg. So without real life being here first, would you still have imagination or fantasy?
Well, let me put it this way. There was one of the early church fathers. He was one of the ascetics, like the desert fathers.
Oh.
And he felt so bad about lusting over women that he literally took a sharp rock and cut his testicles off. The only problem that he discovered was he still lusted. Lust does not reside in the testicles.
That's a rough
lesson.
Lust
is a matter of what? Yeah, because you ain't putting those things back.
Wow, that was horrifying.
Yeah. Lana says art is pushing the narrative.
Can anyone hear me?
No, sorry, John. It's coming in really, bad. Oh, but George, what I wanted to tell you was that, and I can't take credit for this. I was Coach Red Pill actually said that the beautiful thing about movies, especially about the older movies, is that they focused more on human truisms back in those days, and that's because people don't have time to change. So if you look at movies from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, like you'll still see like, oh wow, and you'll see which films inspired which films, but you'll see the same basic human truisms almost throughout all of the classics, no matter where the movie is from. Isn't that something?
It's interesting. Gonzalo Lira, also known as Coach Red Pill, had to start a Patreon channel because his channel is getting throttled and shadow banned. And sometimes he does previews and he says, I'm going to be discussing topic X, Y, and Z on the Patreon channel because I can't discuss it here for fear of being banned. So if you want to hear my thoughts and hear me develop the topic of X, Y, Z, you're going to have to join my Patreon channel. How bad is it when we are silencing dissent?
Crow 777 does a similar thing. And it's not necessarily the political aspect, but because he talks about all sorts of fringe science-y stuff. And he does the same thing. He gets demonetized and threatened with bans. So he's like, hey, we've got this going on at the member site and we're talking about this thing. So head on over to trollcripplezone.com, blah, 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 and
right.
It does the same thing there.
Yeah.
Now, and that plays into what you're talking about, what little I gathered from what you were mentioning with the Netflix, and it shows up as, oh, this is what everybody's watching now. We don't really have a way to, the source code is not open on that. We don't know where they're deriving their data and saying this is, what everybody's watching. So it's is it a push or a pull? Like, is this something that they're trying to promote more? Sort of like, hey, check this out. Everybody is watching this, versus being an organic, hey, people are actually watching this, and so you should check it out.
Yeah.
Oh, the old days of going to Blockbuster and, just looking at movies and seeing what people recommend.
Do you remember the old school video stores? They always had a back room that had the really suggestive films on it. Remember that? They had a room that was separate.
With a red or black curtain to shield it.
Yeah. It's crazy when you think about that. It's interesting. I'm not a big prophecy guy, but I will say this. I view a lot of prophecy the same way I do conspiracy. But I will never forget David Wilkerson, who sometimes people thought he was an absolute nut job. In the 1970s, he said he had a dream where people would be able to watch pornography on demand in their home. This was even before the phrase "on demand" was made.
Whoa.
Before you ever heard, think about it. 50 years ago, and he used language like, "Yes, pornography will be piped into our homes." I mean, that's like an old school way of saying it. Pornography will be piped into our homes. I remember, I knew a mobster where his gig in the 70s, was distributing porn. And I remember, doesn't say a lot about the way that I was raised, but I remember going to his house and hanging out with his kids who were friends of my family, and their basement had porn movies, reels. He actually had reels, like film reels, and you would buy porn in those, buy reels. And he would have what they call a smoker night. You know what that is, right? It's where a bunch of men came over your house, and he had a big house, like a Tony Soprano home. And all he did was play the kind of, this wasn't soft porn. This wasn't kind of like XXX where you saw on the marquee. XXX rated. This is forbidden stuff. And he would have a night where 30 men would come over his house. He opened up the humidor. They all took a cigar. He was pouring drinks, and they'd watch porn together, which is kind of gay if you ask me. And they drank and smoked cigars. And then he gave a sales pitch and said, I have 10 of those left. Like that, this film would end. And then he'd say, I have 10 of these left. Who wants them? I want them, like that. And the guy was, no, 10 left. I'll take one. By the end of the night, it was called a smoker. He was hosting a smoker. So when you were going to a smoker, you told your wife or whoever, yeah, I'm going out, have a night out with the guys, whatever. And you'd go to his house. He would sell out all his porn in one night. And this was not porn, it wasn't like movies that had a plot. They were, think about a Super 8 reel. What's the longest that a Super 8 reel goes for? 5-10 minutes, right? All it was sex acts. All it was penis and vagina, penis and anal, penis and animals, blowjob, close-ups on the sex act. And he would make literally, now think about this, in the 70s, this was big money, $20,000 in one night. So I remember, and his kids went to school with us. The kids actually went to Catholic school, believe it or not.
I believe it.
Me and Jeff would go in the basement of his house, and looking through these boxes that had reels in them. There was cases and cases and cases of boxes of Super 8 films. We would take out this box, pull out the reel, and how big is a frame on a Super 8 film? Like maybe that big, okay? And we're looking at sex acts at 13, 14 years old, okay? On little tiny, looking at each frame by frame. No audio, nothing, okay? And then I remember one night, one day, Dad was in the cement business. Duh, no surprise, right? And there was a box of Super 8 film projectors, small ones, a small film projector. And if you were ever an AV nerd in high school, you knew how to thread a film through a projector and put it in the empty reel, and we would project it on the wall and watch this stuff as a young boy. Not exactly what young boys should be watching. But the father would have a smoker night. I learned that when I was about 13 years old. When a guy said he's going to a smoker, that meant he was going to a gathering of men who were watching just hardcore X-rated stuff, and then men would buy it by the dozens. By the dozens.
I appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit, but can't get behind the product.
That's one way to put it.
The market provides.
But think about that. Yeah. Now any of that is available on a phone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it says in scripture, right? If you want to enter a strong man's house and plunder his home, first you need to bind the strong man. Then you can plunder away freely, right? And really, at the end of the day, we've allowed it to happen, right? Men getting involved in porno or whatever, or you can even get into fornication, sex outside of marriage. Like I was doing that for a while, and I see now that it led me down the wrong path, and it was kind of, the further I went into it, the more it had a hold on me. So yeah, a lot of that stuff, it starts with us, right? You know what I mean? And even all this stuff kind of goes back to perhaps no fault divorce, when marriage became more about, the adults and their whatever they want rather than the children,
It would be interesting to see who wrote the script for this series. I want to know if it's a man or a woman. That's what I want to know. And when you go on Netflix, there's that bar of movies, that says popular on Netflix now. Like what people are watching now. And I thought that was fascinating. I thought that was quite fascinating.
Well, just like the fellow there mentioned, if they're doing all this shadow banning behind the scenes, then they could be artificially promoting this kind of thing behind the scenes too, right? Just that they're trying to push it, and it might not be what everyone is watching. And there's been a lot of that kind of drama too, with Netflix making shows and not really being honest about, how much, what their viewership is like. And that's why there's a kind of that drama with the movie awards and Netflix,
Yeah. Do you think these kind of conversations that I am facilitating now, do you think these are important? I certainly, there's a lot of channels that talk about this to prove how bad women are, how bad men are, or whatever. I take it one step further. I think what we're doing now is I'm showing how society has jumped the shark. Not just women. I mean, there are channels that will talk about what I just talked about. You know, I got 3 pages of notes from that perspective, and it'll be all about women. I think a man who is intellectually honest will say, okay, there are some truths there about men, there are some truths there about women, but that's almost like a microscopic view. And I tell people to have more of an aerial view. What is happening that, like, for instance, 50 Shades of Grey was first released as an ebook. It was not a printed book. Then it became one of the most popular books of all time. It's in like one of the top 100 books. I mean, it's right up there with Chronicles of Narnia. It's up there. Okay. The movie, I remember I watched the movie. Do you remember the movie Sleeper with Woody Allen? And, you know, they found him in a time capsule, and he found these Playboy books, and these people in the future said, what are these? What is this? These books with unclothed women on it. And he says, I don't know. He goes, we take those. I need to study them. And I thought that was kind of funny. Or it's like, you know, the joke in the 70s was, I don't read Playboy for the pictures. I read it for the articles. I thought that was interesting. But when I watched 50 Shades of Grey, what I saw was a very flawed sociopath man. A flawed, destructive man.
Hey, what's with the background noise?
Literally taking advantage of, and he was exploiting a woman. But the majority of purchasers of that book, and those who went to the movie, and those who currently rent the movie, were women. When you look at this character, Billy, she says, the intensity of our conversations was intoxicating. The truth is, I miss him so damn much. She says, I need to feel that again. It was such a high. But look at my husband. Look at my husband. She says, he was the most handsome, humble guy in the room. He provided a dream life for me. I also want him to fuck my brains out. Is that too much to ask?
It's an
Is that a
undermining
commentary on that?
No, it's a commentary on the undermining of social values. I mean, you know, we're too quick to label, oh, it's a man's issue, it's a woman's issue, it's an undermining of society issues. It reminds me of a movie, what was it, On Parade, with Cumberbatch, where he was this strict Victorian. It was at the end of the Victorian period, and he was a strict moralist Victorian man running headlong into this dynamic social change. And he found himself out of step and out of place. And here you have Cooper, as the embodiment of a solid, of what used to be a social norms, the good man, the good provider, the good husband, the good father. And you have her running headlong in reverse from this immoral, decadent lifestyle into the sedate, provided, comfortable lifestyle of security and prosperity offered by Cooper and his hard work.
Okay, interesting. Lana says 50 Shades was bad. The reason it blew because of sex was because of sex, and it honed in on women enjoying a man to control. Now that's fascinating. Does that mean men are not taking control?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of young guys, especially, have been programmed that we should just be
Yeah.
good little boys.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
because they
look
keep
at-
preaching this egalitarian thing, and everything has to be fair, and you get 50 and I get 50, but then that causes a polarity disruption.
I think it goes back
Yeah.
even further. You have
Jacob Mundy.
You have so many men coming out of single parent households, which are usually women. You have from K through 6, the teachers are predominantly women. These guys are surrounded by women.
Yeah, well, where have
Jacob
all the
Mundy says, in fact, in addition to the writers, creators, and directors, Jacob, thank you for your research on this. The majority of the major crew positions of Sex Life on Netflix is women. So he found that out. He just did that research for us.
doesn't surprise me, not at all.
Anthony Drosas says fewer men are taking control because it can get you charged. It seems like Brad, the bad guy, grabbed her, took her off to the side, had sex with her. She kind of gave that fake reply, "Oh man, you're killing me." But what if the average good guy grabbed her by the hand and took her off to the side?
It's assault at that point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have found in the past years that more of the women that I have dated than not have asked me to choke them or some other element along those lines. So in my experience, there is a great desire on at least the females that I'm attracted to and end up in relationships with, where they want to be dominated and controlled in that way.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering though, can we just be real and say, I mean, with caveats of course, but isn't that all women? Don't all women want a strong dominant guy to take control, to take the lead, to be doing all this choking and hair pulling and spanking them on the bottoms, and that's what it seems to me.
I don't have any
Yeah.
evidence to the contrary on that, I have to say.
Perhaps it's what you've been exposed to, right? Either gender, perhaps we have a threshold of, what is, you could say normal. and that kind of gets expanded. But like you said, right, that's coming from a point of view of a guy, right? And women are a lot freakier. Because same with me, yeah, a lot of the women, yeah, they did want to be physically, bound, dominated. But I see too that a lot of it is more also a mental and an emotional thing, right? Like being unmoved. Automatic light here. One sec. Being unmoved by her emotions, being the mountain compared to the sea, right?
Yep.
And the burden of performance is also on the man, right? So, the fact that he wasn't, like she said, fucking her brains out. Yeah, that how long can that go on for, right? Before you're gonna be tearing your hair out, I guess.
I heard it once said that during your first year of marriage, every time you have sex, put a jelly bean in a jar for the first year. Okay, you'll fill up that jar during the first year of marriage.
Oh, wow.
After your first year of marriage, every time you have sex, take a jelly bean out. You will never empty the jar.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Sounds like my marriage.
No. It's this is from my slut making days. I met a girl down in Florida back in like 2019, and it happened that way too. Yeah, hooked up after 2 hours of knowing one another, and we had sex all night long. But then afterward, it just fizzled out.
Yeah.
Well, and for the dichotomy between men and women in the interest and participation in the sexual act, women tend to be more novelty driven, and which is why women break up with guys more often, because they get bored and is just not doing it for them anymore, right? And so there's that interesting line of like, how do you keep it novel without going ape shit off the handle, right?
Yeah. I watched a video today. There's a motivational speaker. I don't know. He's got over 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. And a lot of it is like positive parenting, but a lot of it is how to win your woman back after she cheats. Like videos on your marriage doesn't have to end just because she cheated. And I'm like, what the frig is he talking about?
That's wild.
What are your thoughts about that?
They're just educating these blue pill guys, right? Encouraging men to be weak. It's kind of the propaganda that the women should be, we should be chasing after them, trying to please them, trying to meet our every need. But like, we know that they hate that, right? That's when they, So yeah, they really shouldn't be, and you can't make anybody happy anyways, right? But to try to cater to them and to try to make them happy and to try to, like the guy in the show is making her all her meals and doing whatever.
Well, I just wanted to say this because I'm not going to say I was ever immune to any of the behaviors that we're talking about. But even when I was a kid, deep down inside, I hated it. I hated every single simping moment that I ever did. But that's what society taught me. If you simp, you'll get women. And there's the two go hand in hand. But deep down in the pit of my gut, I was like, oh, I hate this so much. But it's just so nice to know that, some of my instincts as a kid were actually correct.
And there's the confabulation of chivalry with simping.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm not simping, I'm being chivalrous, I'm being polite, and all of this, and you kind of go and get this glorified experience and perception of chivalry, and when in actuality you're just simping.
Yeah. Goodness. This conversation's getting me excited.
Yeah.
I have to stand up.
Now that I think about it, I'm starting to wonder if, in my past, if simping got me sex, but not women. Because, like, not really the simping, but giving in to her. You know what I mean? Like, because I see now that the sex was a way to control me. And so, giving into it, she's going to try to use that as a little lead, right? Maybe tighten the lead later on, whatever, but I'm curious if, it kind of got me one foot in, but that was it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, just to finish my story with the hookup down in Florida back in 2019. So calls me back the next day, like, I miss you really bad. When can I see you next? And I should have scheduled it out for next week, but I said, fine, I'll see you tonight also. And then second night I was there, man, that's when the demands came down. She wanted me to eat her out, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Nope, there's no cunnilingus going on here. And so we eventually did have sex, but it just wasn't the same. I could tell the relationship went south because she didn't get what she wanted. Oh well.
Have any of y'all read The 3% Man by Corey Wayne?
I have, yeah. Good book.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
No. Tell us about
it. Corey Wayne goes and describes the way of dealing with women and basically how to not be a simp. Would you say that's a fair assessment of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's so like whenever you, how's it, to get a woman's contact info, you get her number and then you move on in a social situation. You don't just sit there and like pour all your emotions and, get so involved in it at that moment, because women take longer to warm up than guys do. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's like you get her number and you go and you hang out with people and you talk, maybe get another lady's number, whatever. And then you don't call her the next day. If y'all met on a Friday night, you wait until like Tuesday or Wednesday before contacting her. Because that absence making the heart grow fonder thing, if she doesn't know what your intentions are, there's that element of mystery. And that the more she's thinking about you and wondering, what is your intention and where are you at in all this? Like the more you focus on something, the more value you attribute to it, right? And that's not just in the dating scene, that's in everything. That's why we focus on drama, and if it bleeds, it leads, and all of that type stuff. So it's just going and walking through that whole system of like, hey, how to attract women, how to conduct yourself in a way so that you're not simping, that you're not just being eternally present, because that makes women bored.
Yeah.
And it's creepy. So, yeah.
It's a good book.
Oh, yeah. 10
out of 10 would recommend.
Same. Nice beard, bro. Was that like a red beard?
I remember.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember when I was a younger man, my father said, you sure can get them, but you can't keep them, when I was a young man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I focused on getting them and not keeping them. I didn't care. Mm-hmm. And as I got older, I thought, what am I doing here? I was pretty much a lone wolf kind of guy. There'd be guys simping on a woman, buying her drinks all night, and I could walk up to a woman and say, meet me in the bathroom in 10 minutes.
Have you done that?
I've done that.
Yeah. Whoa. That's pretty crazy.
Boom. Boom. It is.
And did that lead to like bathroom sex or something, or do you guys went back to your place for that to happen? Okay.
No, I hated bringing women back to my place. I hated it because I hate doing laundry.
Yeah, no. The girl that I hooked up with down in Florida, she after we were done, she had a whole lot of laundry to do.
Yeah. I like fresh sheets, and to this day, I don't now. But the reality was I didn't care, and I didn't want the revolving door. There was a revolving door for a short time, and I just thought that's kind of hard to keep that up. It's ridiculous.
Keep it up.
Chuck joined us. Hi, Chuck.
Hi,
Hey,
hi, George. I'm on a short little break here from work, so I thought I'd join you for a little bit.
Your thoughts on the topic?
I didn't catch the topic.
Go ahead. Somebody share the topic.
Poontang and your relationship to it.
All right. Uh-huh.
I don't have any comments. It's been like 20 years since I had any.
Also, Sex Life on Netflix.
Netflix? Yeah, no comment.
Got it.
Like I said, it's been 20 years since
Is
I
that by
had
choice? Chuck, is that by
Yep.
choice? Like
Yeah.
you just kind of gave up and said, this is too much work?
I was divorced 20 years ago. Yeah. And I just, yeah.
That's the story of a lot of men.
But
Yeah.
a lot of women.
Yeah.
Chuck, how would you describe your life now?
I'm happier without it. But I miss it. So.
Yeah.
I miss that relationship mostly.
Yeah. The connection.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then the sex part comes later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you men this. Is there such thing as having a connection with a woman but not being sexually involved? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thought is that that's totally possible, but she has to be, either not attractive to you, or she has to be like a family member, maybe a member of your congregation, maybe she's, like a friend of your sister. So if you go after her, it's kind of weird. So you don't do it because then it makes things awkward between, you and the sister and the friend. So I do think that it's possible, but you want to make that exceptional. Like you really want to not have that be an everyday occurrence,
Plus, I think you ought to set some boundaries also.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps it's possible to, like, intellectually or just
Grow the beard, Kevin. Grow the beard.
be in love with another woman, but if you don't, as long as you don't cross that boundary. And I know people like who was it? Emerson. I read Emerson's journals, and he had a wife, and he was always faithful to his wife. But there was a lot of other females who he was in love with, and intellectually or emotionally, but they just corresponded over letters. It was never like physical. So perhaps it's possible, but then you kind of run into the issue too, where it seems to me like a lot of times when I'm listening to, the woman's side, it's kind of upside down, or that furthering the programming if I take it seriously. So it's hard to get away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend, Natalie, and she's probably, when I met Natalie, I think she was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. I probably have said that 20 times in my lifetime. The most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And she made a real impact on me. I mean, just her beauty, like this Sophia Loren kind of beauty. But she's a married woman, and she says, and she speaks very confidently, and she says, men are so easy. She said, she goes, you feed them and fuck them, and they're going to be okay. Those are her. They've been happily married for a long time. She's a great gal. And she just kind of keeps it real. Feed them and fuck them, and they're going to be okay. She goes, problems come when you stop feeding your man and stop fucking.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, men are so simple. I mean, we're content very easily, and I think that's why too. You know, that the prerogative is that if the man is happy, then the woman's happy. It kind of trickles down from him, right, rather than the other way around. Because trying to keep a woman happy, you'll be, you know, running around with your head cut off, and or you know what I mean. So
Like a chicken.
yeah.
But then what of a happy wife, happy life?
Oh, it's just one of those bullshits, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it originally started out as, you know, as long as the wife is, you know, happy, actually, you know, being a wife and you know, taking care of the kids and the dog and the fish and the cat and the garden in the backyard, and you know, if she's taking care of her husband, that was happy wife, happy life. But now they switched it around, being that, if she's not happy all of the time, then everyone else is miserable.
Yeah.
But then, George, just to answer your last question before, I think that your friend Natalie is, I'd say 2/3 right. I think the third part that she's missing is that I mean, this is where, you know, men and women are programmed so differently. I mean, I've noticed that we men really like silence. We really like peace and quiet, but women like turmoil. Women like, oh my God, and then this happened, and then that happened, and wah! So the third part of that is when she knows, you know, how guys are. Like, we like peace and quiet. We like your cooperation. Maybe you think you have a better idea than we do, but you will give way to how we want to do things. I mean, granted, as long as we're not, you know, driving off of a cliff or something like that, just relax and cooperate. I think that's the part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know subconsciously she can only do that with, you know, a strong man who she feels.
Alpha.
And
Alpha.
You know, and like you're saying about meeting beautiful women, I've had that experience too, and they tend to always be happily married. I noticed that lately. Like, they're the most feminine women, happy women. They're happily married, and so I appreciate that, and you know, I cherish it for what it is, right? And I just appreciate the beauty and the femininity, but I can, you know, it's just cherished from afar, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the qualities of a happy woman?
Long hair, natural color, you know, makeup, you know, don't look like a clown, but, you know, have some decent makeup on, you know, 2 earrings, 1 in each ear, you know, none of this, you know, 14, 15 different earrings in the ear, or, you know, like a bridge ring or a nose ring or a lip ring, tongue stud.
I'd say it's like, you know, to speak about men first, like, you know, I thought when I was younger, you know, to be happy, I had to go out and get things or to achieve things. But I see now that it's more about servitude, right? It's serving others. And I think that would be the same with women, right? It's about serving your husband and serving your family and having a beautiful family, you know, that would be a quality, right? So first thing I would say is mother or desire to be a mother. And then just the physical, the physical beauty I think would come along with that. Just like men would be more attractive if they were masculine, like it's just more natural. And then a big one is just peaceful, not rebellious, right? That's a big no-no. If it's a rebellious woman, you might be able to get her into the bathroom pretty quick, but you don't want to take her home, right?
Oh no, she can stay in the bathroom where you left her.
Yeah. Someone says the sentiment that men only want food and sex reflects the decay of culture.
Mm-hmm.
Try not having food or sex, and we'll see how important food and sex is.
Yeah. Fast from that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think what really makes men happy is the eating good food and doing good things, and then last thing would be having good relationships.
Sure.
It's what you're eating, what you're doing, and what your relationships are.
Yeah. Well, the Bible summarized it in one word: men want respect. I think that sums it all up in one word. I know personally for me, whenever I don't feel respected somewhere, I'm out of there. I'm like, okay, I'm gone. Goodbye. See ya.
I'd rather be respected than liked these days.
Yeah, true.
I mean, the Bible also says that the heart of man is deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it, right? So,
right.
I mean, you can pull.
And that's the problem with, doing what you want and loving whatever you feel like, because we have all kinds of backward attractions. You might be attracted to your neighbor's wife or to your brother's wife for that matter, or whatever. I mean, some people are attracted to their mother or whatever, you know what I mean? You shouldn't act on it, right? There's a lot of stuff that comes out of the heart that is wicked, definitely.
Definitely,
Yeah.
I see that Lana says.
I remember belonging to. Go ahead.
Lana says that our qualities should come from within us, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, having a good hip to waist ratio, it doesn't hurt, but your qualities should be internally generated, natively, as opposed to just the trappings from the outside.
I see too that the outside, like the insides, right? Especially in a matter of, over a period of time, like kind of what your discipline is like, or if you're weak or whatever, that will show. That does speak to your character, right? It's a reflection.
right.
Seems like a lot
There's
of this.
times that I want to stay animal. I don't always want to be. I want to be animal sometimes, and that's one thing I know to be true. Is to be that guy that wants sex and initiates sex. The passive man loses his wife because he's not the animal. The passive man loses his wife's interest and desire, and her attention goes to the guy that acts a little more primal than he does.
Oh yeah.
And you use that word primal. My wife, when we split up, the person that she went to, like, they were into this whole BDSM kink thing, and it was primarily primal. He was the hunter, she was the prey. So it's just curious that you use that primal, that word there, because that convicts me there.
Up here I've got the image of the death of Socrates, and Socrates, I really like that fellow, and he had his idea of a human was that it was a charioteer with, you were the rider, and then you had two horses, And the one horse was a lot slimmer, more elegant, weaker, but that was like the godly horse, right, or the good horse. And it was winged,
Right.
and it bonded to word and admonition. And then there was another horse, which was like the beastly, the primal horse, right, which is big and burly, and it doesn't like to answer. You have to control it with the bridle. But that one, the shadow, that's what I see it as, the shadow, which a lot of people have not really integrated. And then
Yeah.
the shadow, a lot of our stamina, our vitality comes from that shadow, right? Not being afraid, whatever, in the right sense. You know what I mean? Or I guess you should always have it under rein, right? Because keeping the passions under rein is a good practice. But you need to have both, right? And a lot of these, good guys or nice guys,
Yeah.
you're just the white horse, so you're kind of weak. Maybe there's 25% of your vitality there, but that's kind of what we've been told, that's what we should be. That's what is a good man. And that's what really struck me about what was his name? You had a chat with him the way of man. When he said it's not about being a good man, it's about being good at being a man, right? And that's what I think a lot of men are looking for these days, right?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Not about being a good. It's about being good as a man.
Yeah. Nietzsche said it pretty well too. He said that he finds it funny that good people think that they're good when they have no fangs or claws.
Yeah.
So that's when you know that you're really good, when you can actually cause damage to somebody, but because of your rules and principles, you won't do it.
Yeah, that reminds
Just
me
because
of
you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. We're told to be meek, right? And I kind of always thought that was just kind of weakness. But meekness is about, having power but underweight, right? It's about more than being a weapon. It's about knowing when you should unsheath that sword, right? And I like Nietzsche too, because he says, be careful when you devil from yourself, that you don't lose the best part of you, right?
Right. Meek like Moses.
Yeah. All right. So I have a question for you, gentlemen. Many times after our live broadcasts, I delete the broadcast right away. Is this broadcast worth keeping on my YouTube channel?
I'd say so. It's good.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I would say so. I do also have the question then, is this like you doing research for your special project, your 2-week project that you're working on?
No.
Awesome.
This was a completely spontaneous thing where a female I know watched the full season of Sex Life on Netflix, and she says, George, knowing the kind of content that you teach and the authority at which you teach at, and the level of intellect of your subscribers, she said, I believe it would be good for you to watch it and maybe present something on it. So, and I wanted to do it in such a way that wasn't titillating, that wasn't putting people down, that wasn't talking about female nature, male nature. I wanted to stay, like I said, feet firmly planted on the ground, talk rational, remain red-pilled about it, non-simping about it, and remain and talk about it like men, not like little boys blaming. I did not. A lot of times when men get together, it ends up being a blame fest and
woman bashing.
Yeah, I just not interested in that.
Yeah,
like you said,
Awesome.
right, Church, that it's not about furthering that divine, right? I think what we're doing here is we're just trying to have a rational conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
And it seems like today there's been a huge attack on truth and reason, and that's why all this censorship, because really the only way you can't make the truth go away, right? The truth comes out on its own. The only way that they can try to hide it is with censorship or tyrannical governments,
Yeah.
Right. But here we are as the last men, if we're talking about Nietzsche terms.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, George,
All right. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you, George, if you were considering, going over older movies and talking about, I'll call them human truisms versus red pills. But right, if you were to go over, just human truths that you've seen in, books, movies, TV shows, music, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a great topic. It's something I certainly would consider. I find it interesting. I wasn't sure that I was going to be interested in this topic, but I literally sat down with my clipboard, and of course the back of my clipboard is
At a red
you can all
pill
see that.
thing?
Yeah. So, but I started out with a blank pad and I took 3 pages of notes while I watched this show, which is pretty typical of me, not just sitting there eating popcorn and watching people bang each other for an hour. I took notes on it, and I wanted to present something that was literally rational. So I'm glad everyone appreciated it, and when I get around to watching episode 2, it'll be the same thing. I'll be taking notes, giving a synopsis of what happened, and then we will dissect it like truly rational men. So thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the panel. Everyone that joined, everyone that's in the live chat, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Good
George.
night, all. Bye.
Be well.